My name is Caitlin Ho, and today I'm going to be talking about the problem of homelessness in America. So all around us, every single day, we see people in the streets, under bridges, begging for money in front of grocery stores, laying down in a park next to trash, and we kind of can't help but to feel some sort of sympathy or feel a little bad for them, because if you thought about it and you were in their shoes, you would never want that for anyone. And so 17% of people have actually experienced homelessness on any given night per 10,000 people of the general population. And they beg for water, and they shiver in the cold months, and they have no place to live, and they're eating out of trash cans of people's leftover foods. And it's only right to feel some type of sympathy and have some empathy for them. And some of these people have jobs and they're still living on the streets, and these people who have jobs have children and families that they can't provide for, and they don't have a roof over their heads, and they can't have a safe place to call their permanent home. And with more than 600,000 homeless people living on the streets, it's such a big problem. But I think us in America, we can make such a difference to bring an end to homelessness. There's so many ways to put an end to it. We can have more federal housing, such as homeless shelters, and Congress can invest more into the homeless assistance grants with helping the homeless get food stamps and the housing they need, the clothing, the food, the water. And so that being said, they're all living in such horrible living conditions next to the streets where cars are driving by every single day with that polluted air, and they're eating out of the trash can, which isn't healthy or sanitary. And all of that is really harsh on one's body, and a lot of homeless people get really sick and they're not able to get the help that they need. And a lot of the time they suffer from chronic diseases such as schizophrenia, because they're not able to cope with their surroundings and the people that they're around. And it's also just horrible, them living on the streets, because more than 1 in 3 homeless people said that they've been kicked, verbally abused, sexually abused, physically abused, and things are thrown at them, or any other sort of violence. And that just happens with them. That just comes with them living on the streets, and that's just not fair to them. And this problem has been such a big problem since like the early 1600s. And although it was a different time, the living conditions are even worse now. And there's so many causes to homelessness, and a lot of people just think it's because of their laziness and them not wanting to get jobs, but the actual number one reason is poverty. So this is a pie chart of poverty in New York. And so this is the number of homeless people. The red is single adults, the blue are children, and then the green is adults in families. So this just shows like the amount of homeless people and how they're under the poverty line. So the biggest reason of being homeless is poverty, and them not making enough money and to be able to make ends meet and afford their homes, to put a roof over their families' heads. And the second biggest reason is a family or a personal crisis. When there's a death in the family, there's something wrong with your car, someone in the family gets sick, or anything like that. All those things cost a lot of money, and it's really hard to pay those expenses when you're under the poverty line. And so a lot of people, when these things happen, like when these tragedies happen, they're forced out of their homes, because after they pay all these expenses, or if they can even pay these expenses, they can't afford to put a roof over their head. And so the policy solution that came with this research was more government spending on to open up more homeless shelters, and the grants, and making it more accessible for the homeless people to get shelter, and food stamps and clothing medical assistance, those are all necessities that they need and they aren't able to get living out on the streets. And so for me, I decided to volunteer more and to volunteer more at soup kitchens and canned food drives, and I've always done that my whole life. But I think after this, realizing just how bad the issue of homelessness was, I just realized that like I can always do more to help, and so can everyone else. And so all in all, homelessness has been such a big issue in America, and whether we realize it or not, but there are so many ways to get these people off the streets and into a safe place. So we see homeless people everywhere, like I said, on the streets, parks, wherever, under bridges, begging for money, like running up to your car, and we always feel some type of empathy for them, because if you put yourselves in their shoes, you could never imagine that being you or that being someone that you know. And so always think about the reasons why they're there, not just because they don't want to work. Think about their families that they've lost, the jobs that they've lost, the home, the safe place that they used to call home. They lost all of that. And so millions of Americans live under the poverty line, and that's why a lot of them are forced into homelessness. And the government can always increase spending to help the homeless by providing public assistance such as shelters and medical clinics and food, so that they can get everything that they need. And so just think about how someday we might be able to drive around the city or drive on